Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this video on 4.1 and 4.2 for Science 7. So today we're going to be looking at human impact on ecosystems and then some differences between threats and endangerment and the extinction of species, which is something we've already covered. One of the main things though is going to be looking at biomagnification and a couple of other little definitions. So today's going to be a shorter lesson. So first off, here's our question of the day. So what do pesticides and herbicides do to living things? Any examples of them being used? So try and think of some examples of these guys. So again, with a little bit of movie magic, we're going to go ahead and give you some time to answer those. Alright, and we're back. So hopefully you guys had a bit of time to think about this. I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be some pretty nice answers in the bunch. So pesticides are mainly used against things such as what we could consider pests. Usually they typically classify these ones as animals or living organisms besides plants. And then herbicides, if you think about the word herb, right, that's referring to, again, affecting plants. So pesticides and herbicides typically are meant to get rid of a population or a specific species of insects, bugs, or animals. So some examples of them being used, some good examples for you guys would be, for instance, golf courses. They go ahead and they spray around tons of chemicals on there to get rid of mosquitoes, to get rid of little insects that will eat the grass. So there's a lot of different things that can happen there. And of course with farms, there's going to be a lot of pests and little insects running around on crops, and they try and get rid of those as well with herbicides and pesticides. So for today's lesson, we're going to go to this video on specific type of pesticide slash herbicide. Actually no, it's a pesticide, DDT. So this one here, you guys will have a quick video on that in a moment. So before we jump into that, we need to learn about two important terms. So if you take anything home from today's lesson, will be these next two terms. So again, we have that word bio, which now you guys should be cluing that in with living things. So biomagnification. When we're talking about magnifying, right, you're zooming in on something, so you're seeing really deep in detail. So in this case here, we're going to be looking at it in a bit of a different way. While instead of zooming into things, we're going to see how much something can hold on to. So what we have here is the increase of a toxic substance throughout a food chain. So it starts off small and it's going to magnify in its intensity and get bigger and bigger. So a little bit of the opposite of zooming in on a microscope. You're going to be kind of zooming out and seeing the whole image. So with this, we start off with our example here on our board with some water. You have a whole bunch of plankton in there and microorganisms that are going to be absorbing chemicals from the water. Then small fish are going to be eating those, and then those chemicals build up in those small fish, and then the large fish have to eat the small fish, and then finally you get the bird, the osprey, that's going to be eating the bigger fish. Now what you'll see is there's this thing called ppm over there for the DDT concentrations, and again you guys will learn about that in a bit, what DDT is, but for now just know that it's a chemical, and this chemical can be found in very small amounts in the little zooplankton there. So you see that 0.0003 parts per million, right? A lot of zeros. That is going to be found in each little plankton. Now if one fish has to consume like 100 or so of these, or maybe a couple thousand or however many, right? That goes up to 0.04 parts per million. And that's just in one fish. So then we move on to slightly bigger fish eating the smaller fish. It's going to go up a bit. And then when you get to the big fish, right, they have to eat a bunch of these smaller fish with these like 0.5 parts per million of chemicals in them. So if the large fish eats 4 of these smaller fish, right, it's going to have, what, that'd be 1 part per million, so they have to eat about 8 fish to get to 2 parts per million. And that's just in one fish. And again, just keeps building up and building up. And then that bird, right, it's going to have to eat or consume a number of big fish to stay alive. So if each one of those big fish has 2 parts per million, and now we're looking at our bird here that has 25 parts per million, that bird's got to be eating about like 12.5 fish to get to 25 parts per million. And this is showing us that the amount of toxic chemicals, right, increases as we go up in our food pyramid. So this is what we call biomagnification. You're getting more and more of that toxic stuff the further up you go in your energy pyramid. So that's our first term for today. So biomagnification. Again, you should have this one in your jot notes. And bioaccumulation is, again, when the substance builds within things. So you have, of course, it's building up in each one of these organisms. Now it depends on the organism, might build up at different levels than others, right? So again, as we were mentioning there, it will typically be bigger in animals because again, they're consuming more things that are bigger in size, which can hold more of the toxins and things like that. So bioaccumulation, think about it building up inside of living things. So those are our 2 important definitions for today. So again, biomagnification, right, you're getting more and more of that stuff towards top of your energy pyramid, and then the accumulation, bioaccumulation, means how much is put in these guys, how many parts per million, how much of a chemical is stored in them. So we're going to be looking at impact on ecosystems. Next lesson, we're going to be doing a little bit of an activity together. Hopefully we'll be live. We'll give it a shot. And extinction occurs when a species no longer exists anywhere on Earth. So again, we already know that, a little bit of review. And again, we can increase this rate of extinction. And a couple little reasons why, of course. Again, I'm answering this question for you guys, but we increase the rate of extinction because, again, resources is a big one. Or we're removing space that these animals and living things can be in. So those are 2 major things that we end up doing. It's removing their habitats, the space that they can roam around in, and of course, their food supplies. And then organisms that are rare or in danger, right? Those ones we typically call endangered. So that's the other term. And of course, threatened species is a little bit lower on the scale of the extinction, endangered, and then they go to threatened. So threatened is when there's still a risk that they might become extinct later on, but again, it's not as high up as the endangered one. So it just means, again, their numbers are kind of low. So again, that's a bit of review from our previous lessons. So there's 2 quick videos that you guys are going to be looking at here in a bit with DDT. So one explains the background behind DDT, and the next one will also be talking about, again, the chemical composition and a couple of neat, interesting facts about DDT and more on the history. So when you guys are done with those videos, you'll be working on these 4 check and reflects for the rest of class. So again, thank you again for your time, and I'll see you guys in the next video.